Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Ian. All right, so you're in the right spot. We're at the Northwest School Wood and Boat Building Info Session for Marine Systems. And what you're seeing right now is actually the Marine Systems building that was specifically built for this program, finished in 2020 and has a pretty great view on our campus. Again, that's who we are. You can see our faces. That's me and Kevin, probably taken a few years ago. We might look a little different, a little older now.
Definitely older. At least me. I'm talking about me here.
Um, so a little housekeeping before we get started here is this meeting is being recorded. We have people live, but we also said we would share this recording with people who couldn't make the live session. So just know that. You will also get this recording as well in case you want to go back and look for anything or listen to another part. You've all been muted as you've come in, but you do have the ability to unmute yourself. This session is only dedicated to marine systems, so we have a little bit more flexibility in stopping and asking questions and raising hands. So if you do have a question about a specific, maybe a specific part of the program that Kevin is talking about, feel free to raise your hand. I'll call on you. If it's a good pause, you can unmute too and ask the question. But we also have some dedicated time to ask you questions if you're just holding them. No. Oops, sorry. This is just a little about Zoom controls. I think everybody now over the last 4 years is comfortable with Zoom. You can raise your hand. There's some functionality on your toolbar in the bottom. Um, and then if something happens with if we pause or we somehow this ends, just stay on and we'll restart the session. So what are you going to learn today? So we're going to go through just a little bit of like how you learn at the school. We'll get in depth about the different modules and things you learn actually in the Marine Systems program. Kevin's going to be your technical expert there. We'll talk about what does admissions mean, how is it open, how do you apply, what's expected. We'll talk very briefly about funding education if that's something that you might need help with. And there's also sections really quick about our campus, where we're located, and any questions following up on those. So at this moment, I am going to turn it over to Kevin, who is going to start telling you a little bit about who the school is and what your expectation can be about learning in this program.
Great. Thanks, Christina. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
All right. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you for taking time out to join us here this morning. And like Christina said, we are coming at you from really nice weather this morning here in Port Hadlock. And so we have been waiting patiently, or maybe not, for some better weather. And this last week we got some, so it's great. Marine systems. Well, let's just talk about overall the boat school. You know, our mission is to teach and preserve boat building and marine system skills while developing the individual as a craftsperson. And to that end, you know, we have the two separate but together programs. There's a boat building program, and today we're focusing very specifically on the marine systems program. And just very briefly, a number of years ago, you know, I taught for years for ABYC, the American Boat and Yacht Council. I was their lead instructor when I decided to come here. And so I've been around teaching marine systems for a long, long time. One of the things that I really wanted the ability to do was to teach hands-on. And with ABYC's teaching model, of course, they're basically going out there and educating people on standards and certifying them to those standards. And I really wanted to do more. And when this opportunity came up, we decided to, Betsy approached me and we decided to start a marine systems program that was based on, obviously we have to do the theoretical, but the hands-on as well. Go ahead and change slide, Christina.
I have a little delay happening.
Okay. Yeah, I was
There you
like,
go.
oh, okay, here we go. Okay. A little bit, you know, about the history. A gentleman by the name of Bob Prothero started the school, you know, 40, I want to say, don't quote me on this exactly, about 43 years ago or so. And, you know, he said, I don't want to make only boat builders. I want to make craftspeople. And boat building is the best way I know how to do that. And his desire was to maintain some of these skills that he saw us as losing and not being carried on further. And of course, it started out primarily as boat building. And so those traditions have been going on for the last 43 years. And so, but at one point, the school's board and program advisory committees got together and said, hey, what you guys are doing is great. We love what you're doing. We're hiring your students and stuff, but you need to consider bringing in marine systems. And so Betsy, our executive director, Betsy Davis, decided that, in order to do that, she needed to find someone that had that kind of experience and stuff. And I was here teaching a class for ABYC, and she pulled me off to the side and said, hey, would you consider coming and joining us and starting a marine systems program? So between Betsy and myself and a lot of hard work and everything over the last, well, I think it's been almost 8 years now, we developed this marine systems program and really have started with very, very little and up in a teeny little space and moved. Now we're into our own 5,800 square foot shop of our own. And it started out as a 6-month program. Now we're a 9-month program. So moving forward. So, like I said, 43 years, we have over 1,800 alums. And one of our mottos, and we have a number of different mottos, is make a living, craft a life. And so one of the things that we've recognized with our students here over the years is people that come here come for a lot of different reasons from a lot of different backgrounds. But it seems to be a very life-changing experience for a lot of folks. And of course, like everything in life, it's going to depend on what you put into it. So, hey, Christina. Let's talk a little bit about our marine systems alumni, because my job, if you will, was to develop and build entry-level technicians into the marine industry and give them the foundational tools and everything they need to really leap into the marine industry and move ahead of a lot of the people that have been there a lot of time. And so one of the ways that I measure our success, of course, is in the success of our alumni. And so I want to talk just briefly about a couple of these folks here. Megan Hahn came from home. Well, she's in Homer, Alaska, but she actually was born and raised in Nome, Alaska. And if you know where they're way up there, always when I hear that reminds me of the Balto, the story about Balto. But anyway, Megan was professionally trained as a musician, and she wanted to do something very different with her life. And her goal when she first arrived here was to become a marine diesel mechanic. And of course, when she was here, we were during the COVID months, or a couple of years there. And so we were all wearing masks and everything during that time. But she also, when she arrived, she forgot that she was allergic to cedar, and which was really challenging for someone to come into a wooden boat building school where we mill cedar planks all the time. And and our classroom at the time was in the mezzanine, which is above the shop where all the milling shop. And so all this stuff. So poor Megan had to cover herself from head to toe all the time. And we had an EpiPen sitting right there. It was quite the thing. But anyway, and I said, Megan, you ought to just not do this right now. You ought to come back next year when we're in a new facility. There won't be any cedar dust. She goes, no, I'm going to push through. We're going to do this. And so she did. And she came out, when she finished and she graduated, she went to work for a year or so at Haven Boatworks as a diesel mechanic, but then really decided what she really liked was the electrical side of things. And so she started working on electrical. She applied for a job back up in Alaska, where she came from, in Homer, and was instantly hired based on the credentials that she obtained while she was here. And, I talked to her, well, we talk every 2 weeks approximately, and just touch base. And not only is she working on all kinds of vessels there in Homer, but she's also going further and getting her, or a different direction, diversifying herself and getting land-based. So she is pretty much doing marine electrical now. Kasha came here to us out of high school, and that's very very young, and but he also ended up going down the road of marine electrical, and he went to work at Haven Boat Works as well, and he was working for about 4 years in their electrical department. Just recently moved up into the Anacortes or Bellingham area, and he's still working marine electrical at this time. Misha was also from Alaska, and a veteran. And he came with, when he got here, he had a captain's license. So he learned a lot of things about systems that he hadn't learned before. And now he is in charge of all the Alaska fish and wildlife vessels. And he's the captain of their largest law enforcement ship. So go ahead, Christina. Let's see what we got next here. Oh, yeah. So Damien is what I call a double winner, because Damien went through not only the Marine Systems program, but he went through the boat building program before he came to Marine Systems, which was fantastic. And I always encourage people, the people that go through both of these programs come out with this amazing marketability and skill set that I just look at them as people that can do just about anything with their hands. Damien, also very young, interesting young man. He got his pilot's license before he got his driver's license. And while he was here, not only did he build the boats that they did during class, but he built 2 other boats on his lunch break while he was here. And so then he, after graduating here, he went off to Shipwrights Co-op, and he's building his own boat, or has built his own boat right now, and he's getting ready to cruise up into Alaska as soon as he feels like he's made enough money to do so. And then Andy Blim, also one of the folks in our very first class. Andy, came from the IT world, so a pretty significant departure from what he was previously doing. And Andy went off and worked for, he asked me, what do you recommend? I said, I'd recommend you go out and work in a yard for a period of time until you stop learning. And once you stop learning, because he was interested in starting his own business, and about 9 months later said, okay, I think I've learned everything I can learn here. And he started his own business, and he's been doing that for 7 years or so. So he has a marine electrical business that he operates and is very successful with that. So, when we were first talking about this program, we first started, to be frank with you, we started with my equipment. And so we were having to share all kinds of stuff. And I quickly recognized that when I take a group of people and put them on one project, a lot of times what happens is 1 or 2 of the people kind of take over, and everybody else just kind of sits on the sidelines. And that didn't seem like the very best way from my perspective for people to learn. But we didn't have any other option at the time. And I had told Betsy, I said, in a perfect world, we would have ourselves set up so that everybody has their own equipment, has their own products and all this type of stuff to work on, so that they get a better education and better hands-on learning. And so we were successful and able to do that. Betsy is incredible at getting us grants and stuff, and we got an EDA grant so that we have equipment now for every individual. So as a student that comes in, during the process, you will have your own brand new Beta diesel engine, for example. You'll have your own brand new, that's just yours to work on. You have to leave it. You can't take it with you. Sorry about that, but it's got to stay here. But everybody gets their own, like I said, diesel engine, your own outboard you're going to work on, your own isolation transformer, inverter, all this equipment that we cover. And so that you're not going to be in a situation where someone else is taking over and you don't have the opportunity to learn this. And it's also a way for us to gauge, what you are learning and how you're learning, so we can help better facilitate, a broader spectrum of learning. So we're very unique in that respect. In fact, a friend of mine Nigel Calder, you may have heard of Nigel. He's written a lot of books. He's very famous in the marine world, was out recently and talking to us. And Betsy actually asked him, what was about our program? What did you see our program that stood out to you? And his response was, out of all the schools in the country, and there's not a lot of us that do this type of teaching, but what he thought was very unique is that everybody gets their own equipment to work on, and he felt that really helps facilitate the learning. So go ahead, Christina. The word craftsmanship is something that we really focus on. My background coming from ABYC, I'm very, very maybe picky might be the word. I kind of hate to use that word, but I really want what the work that we are doing to come out of here that is standards compliant, that has turnkey reliability for our customers or for ourselves, whatever it is you're doing for, and be able to do it right. And the word craftsmanship is often used surrounding like wood boats and stuff like that, but there is craftsmanship to the marine system side of things. And you can start looking at things and see an electrical board, for example, or a plumbing setup that has been done very, very well. And it's very easy to spot those. And you can also spot the ones that aren't done so well. So we really strive on, craftsmanship means different things to different folks. Craftsmanship to us here in Marine Systems means that we're meeting the standards or exceeding. We're, the industry accepted standards. We're focusing on doing it correctly. The consequences of not doing things right on boats are higher than they are a lot of times, like in a vehicle and stuff or in land-based stuff. So we need to do things right. So we try real hard to do all of that. Okay. Working with state-of-the-art technology. I'm a geek, and I like technology. I like a lot of our traditional stuff too. But when it comes to technology and trying to take the things that we've been doing forever and maybe making it better is something that I enjoy. And so we try very hard to stay on the cutting edge of technology. And like, for example, if you look in the upper left corner here, you'll see the vessel that we built called the Clean Bay. This was cooperation between the boat building and Marine Systems. Boat building, of course, built the vessel, and Marine Systems came in and did all of the rest of the work, all the systems. This is an electric propulsion system. The boat is 100% electric. We call it a zero emissions boat. Of course, we've got solar. It incorporates, all the latest GPS. This one actually has Garmin chart plotter, isolation transformer. It's all a 48-volt pump. And this is a work boat that functions every Saturday and Wednesday in Port Ludlow, and it goes around and provides a free pump out service to tenants that are there at Port Ludlow or anybody that comes into the bay there. And it was really a fun boat to design, the electrical system and all the different systems. And it's just one of the things that we were able to get cutting edge technology, learn about that technology, share all of that information with our students, put it in a vessel, and watch it go out there and work. And it's still working to this day. And I can't remember. I think we're on our second or third year with that. We also bring in, other learning platforms here. And so speaking of state-of-the-art technology, Nigel Calder, who you see on the upper right here, he has come up with a program called Boat How To, and that's something that we provide for our students. And it's just another way, to tap into everybody's different learning styles, because everybody has different learning styles. Some people learn really well by listening to lectures. Most of us learn better by doing. So we try to just diversify how the information is going to be presented to you, and do our best to make sure that we're ticking all of those boxes. Of course, we bring in things like the latest in alternator controls and all the different technologies that are coming. Electric propulsion is one of the things that we're focusing on in the class. as well. So we try to stay up on the latest technology. Christina, go ahead. We also really benefit from being very close to the shipyard and here in Port Townsend. I don't know how many of you folks know much about Port Townsend. Maybe you know a lot, maybe you don't know anything, but Port Townsend, I think I'm fair when I say that it is the wooden boat capital of the West Coast. And you know, it's not just wood boats, though. It's a very diverse shipyard. And the really cool thing is that we have the ability, we have a spot in the shipyard that we can go, a classroom, if you will, over there, or you know, whatever you want to call it. It's a place where we get together, we talk about what we're going to accomplish that day in the boatyard, and then we muster there and then leave our stuff and come back there. And so the neat thing is because this is such a diverse yard, it gives us the opportunity to expose our students to a diverse variety of vessel types. So we have everything from a lot of wood vessels. You know, here's the clean bay on the upper left. On the upper right, you're seeing a steel vessel with a quartz nozzle attached to its propeller and everything. And down lower, you're just seeing our typical yachts and sailboats. And then the lower right-hand side, you're seeing the schooner Adventurous, which we spend time on every year. We go down there and do corrosion surveys on her, as well as help with the spars and all kinds of stuff. And it's a 100-foot wooden vessel that is a training ship, and we had the opportunity to go and do some of the work. And in fact, one of our alums has been the chief engineer on that for quite some time. Now she's moved on to other things, but really cool to see our students be successful and be able to move on and do something like that. Yeah, so when you come into the classroom, there's several things you'll notice up on the walls. I've got certain things around the room. You know, one of them is dignity and respect. And it's one of the things I absolutely insist on. And we all come from very diverse backgrounds, all kinds of experiences, some good, some bad. I want to make sure that this classroom and the shop here is a learning environment and where everybody can be themselves. And as long as they're not trampling on other people's rights and stuff, that's what we strive to do. Everybody should be treated with dignity and respect. And we're all here for the same goal, and that is to learn. And so I try very hard to protect the learning environment. One of the other signs says you get out of this program what you put into it. And I cannot emphasize much how real that is and how important that concept is. And so we have folks from, like I said, from all over the place. We have a lot of veterans. You see one of our veterans here. We keep all of the flags up here, and he's putting up, we had just gotten the Space Force flag, so we added that to our collection of flags and stuff. We have a lot of fun. On the upper right picture that you see here, one of our students volunteered to make paella one day, and so we contributed to buying all the stuff, and it was rather expensive, but you know, we made this out here in the parking lot. It was fantastic. We're able to invite the rest of the whole school, and everybody got a chance to have some of that. We try to do, you know, potlucks and you know, barbecues and stuff like that, because we want to work real hard, but we also want to have want to play hard too. So our program, first of all, maybe that's a good place. Anybody got any questions so far? Keep moving? Okay. So, you know, we are now a 9-month program. I alluded to the fact that we started out as a 6-month program, and we changed to a 9-month program primarily because of the feedback from students. And the feedback was, it's like drinking from a fire hose. You know, we're trying to take, you know, we're not talking about here in Marine Systems about building the hull and the deck and stuff, but we're doing everything else. You know, so we, you know, it's a lot of information. And that's one of the things that I really love about boats. is I have been doing this my entire life. I've been around boats forever, and I will never, ever learn everything there is to know about boats. I mean, I will never get bored, I assure you of that. And so there's just so much information, and we can't teach it all, and we don't try to teach it all, but we're going to try to teach you all the fundamentals. We're going to teach you how to um, approach different problems and become a good problem solver, and how to do things with your hands, and try to put out, a product that is, like I said, that has turnkey reliability. I mentioned earlier, we teach the industry standards and best industry practices. We do our best to get on real world boats as often as we can. That presents some challenges at times when we have 18 to 24 students. But for example, this particular class that we're going through right now, we're just going to be starting our third quarter here next week when everybody comes back after spring break. We are working on a variety of projects on boats. One project is on a vessel, a 76-foot steel hull vessel called Alaska Quest. It goes up into Alaska every year and takes people around to tour different places and see whales and glaciers and all that kind of wonderful stuff up there. And what we're doing for this boat is we're putting in an inverter, replacing his inverter, and we're putting in some data communications things so the owner can monitor his vessel when he's away, and putting in some battery monitors and stuff like that. And I can't guarantee that we always find these kind of projects, because it's kind of a unique individual, and it has to be someone that we can work with, and someone that can put up with, we're all, students, right? And so this is not like taking your boat to a shipyard and say, hey, install this inverter. It takes longer. Our goal is to teach, and so everything takes a little bit longer, and it takes what it takes to do these jobs, but it is an opportunity for you as a student to actually do these real world things. We don't just look at wood boats. We take care of steel, aluminum, and of course fiberglass as well. So our new system shop, I think it's been here about 2 years now, maybe a little bit more. It is a fantastic space for us to work. What you're looking in the upper is a picture, from up on the hill here, looking down at the shop. We have 2 large doors plus 2 man doors on the north end, and then a couple other doors. And inside here we have a lot of room for our desk, your bench, if you will. And every student has room to keep all your own tools and stuff there. So if you can see these benches that are there in the lower right hand, that's going to be shared 2 students. Okay, and you've got the shelf, you've got 2 shelves in there to store all your tools and stuff like that, and a lot of room. And you can see in the background here, actually there are several electric boards that students are working on. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But it is a fantastic learning opportunity spot. It's just a great place to be, and it feels really good. So when you start talking about what we're going to focus on teaching you for marine systems, we have to start with electrical. And we do that very, very intentionally. If you look at any system out there on a boat today, on a modern vessel, whether we're talking about flushing the toilet or navigating the boat, or starting the engine, or pumping water, or turning on our propane stove, all of these things involve marine electrical. And marine electrical is somewhat complicated in that it's both AC and DC. We have a lot of different systems that do integrate together, and so it's different than your typical land-based electrician, for example. You have to be proficient in both AC and DC. You have to be proficient in the standard surroundings, because now we're taking this platform and we're sitting it on a conductive medium, i.e. water. And so there's a lot of things that surround that. So we spend a lot of time on this, because every other system is dependent on good, dependable electricity. So obviously we're going to cover shore power systems, AC, DC, overcurrent protection, cable sizing, and all these different things you're going to find on a modern boat today. Isolation, transformers, systems design, all these things are very much part of what we're doing. And these pictures you're seeing here is just some of the tools that we use. You see a picture of me here burning some wire. It's important for you to understand what happens when we overload a wire. We do that outside, not in the classroom. And I keep you away from the smoke because it's nasty stuff. But you'll see down here a boat that in the lower left, a boat that is leaking electricity. And this is a big problem out there. And there's going to be a tremendous amount of work coming up for technicians on that. And one of our electrical boards, this is a board one that one of our students put together. Each of you would be doing that. You're going to actually have a total of, there's board 0, board 1, and board 2. And board 2 includes all of the things from navigation, NEMA 2000-183, inverters, isolation, transformer, chart plotters, AIS. I mean, I can't even say it all very quick. So anyway, all the things. Yeah, so more on electrical there. Just a tremendous amount of time in terms of building that foundation. And once you have this electrical foundation, of course, then it's going to make your engine installations, your plumbing systems, all these types of stuff is going to go a whole lot better because you have that foundation. Of course, one of the things that we're doing is during this process, you will, our goal is for you to achieve 3 different ABYC certifications, a diesel certification, a marine system certification, and the ABYC electrical certification. So 3 different certifications in class. Yes, sir.
Do you guys do any light welding at all?
We are not doing any welding at this time. There is some other educational facilities out there that are doing that type of stuff in our area. It's something certainly that we've talked about doing. It's just outside of our scope and capability. We're so busy with the rest of this stuff that right now we haven't been doing that. We do, however, have a metal shop where we have a lathe and we have all the equipment and stuff like that. So welding is not part of our program at this time.
Okay, thanks.
You bet. Electronics, when we talk about marine electrical, electronics is very much part of that. Radar, AIS, autopilot, chart plotters, all of those things, and the integration between all those things is, of course, very much part of what we do. Go ahead, Christina. Marine diesel engines. One of the things that we do is I want you to see the opportunity. I want you to have the opportunity to do both a marine diesel. Obviously, we're going to do some outboards too, but also when we're doing these diesels, I want you to see the difference between electric propulsion and diesel. So here, the boat that you're seeing up here in the upper left corner, we have that here. We're putting a diesel engine in it. We'll pull that diesel up, put electrical propulsion back and forth in each class. Like I said, we have 24 brand new beta diesel marine engines that each of you will have to learn on. And we go through all the service up to including the 100-hour service on these engines. We have start carts. And so you start out with, I don't know anything about this diesel. And by the time you're done, you'll be able to do all the service on it. And, a lot of times we hear people, I want to learn troubleshooting. Well, you can't learn troubleshooting on anything until you learn the basics and the foundation. And so you got to learn all that stuff first. And once you get some experience, then you can go into troubleshooting. But we're really lucky to have all that stuff and to be able to do. We do have engines that you will be able to take all the way down if you're so inclined. We do require that if you take them all the way down, you got to put them back together. So and hopefully there's no leftover parts, right? I mean, it's gotta come together. And so we're going to teach you not only how to do these things, but a process to approach these things, right? And of course, any of these process starts with what we call RTFM, and that is read the frickin' manual. And so we're going to start there and teach you how to read that manual and utilize that. That manual is your friend and stuff. Okay, Christine, we can move on. Outboards, if you took a look at the type of propulsion systems that are being installed on vessels today, believe it or not, outboards are going to outweigh everything else. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And so, we have a lot of fun. We have a great relationship with Suzuki, and we have a Suzuki outboard for everybody to work on. Again, we're going to focus on all the service. If you were to walk into a marine service shop, outboard shop, you can ask the technicians what they do. They primarily do service all the time. And so we're going to make sure that you have all that, under your belt. You're going to do it hands-on. You're going to do it theoretically. So that includes all the lower units and the impellers, and adjusting the valves, and in this case, if you're using a small one, carburetor and stuff. And as we move up into the larger ones, of course, we'll get into fuel injection. We have, like I said, a great relationship with Suzuki. So for folks that are interested, we have a pathway. If you come through this program and you show a lot of aptitude and an interest in outboard motors, Suzuki feels like that's, we're kind of like the gatekeeper for that, for folks that are most folks have to get hired by a Suzuki dealer and work up, and then you can have access to their training. But with our relationship with Suzuki that I've been able to develop, you can come in here. Once you go through our program, we can sign you up for Suzuki University, and you can move forward. And if you take that as far as you want to go. And one of the things that they like to tell our students is, if you know how to work on an outboard, you can work anywhere in the world, and take that skill with you. So it's pretty neat. And there's a lot of things to come on that. When you start talking about boats and saltwater and metal, whether even on a wood boat, marine corrosion is a huge issue. We spend, in $2002, we spent over $426 billion, if memory serves, annually in this country on corrosion and corrosion prevention. It's a huge, big deal. On the boating side industry, it's like 3.6 or something like that billion. Back in 2002, it's a big deal. There's not a lot of training out there available for marine corrosion, and it's one of my big passions. And so we spend a couple of weeks, and we try to spend a good portion of that time actually doing corrosion surveys aboard vessels. So here's a couple pictures, in classrooms, some laboratory experiments, and then doing real world corrosion surveys aboard vessels. And we try to do all hull types while we're here. So aluminum, steel, wood, and fiberglass. Go ahead, Christina. Marine propulsion systems, of course, propellers, shafts, outdrives, dripless, and traditional stuffing boxes, struts, shaft alignment, all of that, of course, is part of a marine technician's tools that they need in their toolbox. And so we go through all of that process. And again, there's a lot of different technologies coming out and stuff, and we're going to try to keep on top of all what's happening there. As I mentioned earlier, electric propulsion, and the boat that you're looking at, obviously on the left, is a clean bay that we already discussed. The one on the right is called the pulse bowl, and that's the one where we put a diesel engine in, so everybody gets an opportunity to be part of that. And then we send everybody out in the bay, run around and stuff, and then we bring it back in, and then we swap out the diesel and put in the electric propulsion, and then send everybody back out in the bay. Obviously not all at the same time, because there's not room for that on the boat, but that way you get the opportunity to install a diesel and install electric propulsion and be able to compare the differences. Plumbing is, well, one of our instructors, Tyler, says, when it comes to working on boats, it's electrical or plumbing. And, there's a lot of truth to that, because you spend a lot of time focusing on, if you're working on a boat, you're going to be doing plumbing and you're going to be doing electrical. And so we have plumbing modules. Of course, we focus on make sure that everything's standards compliant. And again, we go through all the tools, the hand tools, and the process. And everybody has their own toilet. Everybody has their own tanks and sinks and accumulator tanks and pumps and all that kind of stuff. And that all comes together quite nicely. It's an important section for sure. Heating and refrigeration. Well, this is something that the boating public today demands, and myself being a boater my whole life, and I live aboard. Heating and refrigeration is very important. And so we go through and, we have basically diesel-fired heaters that everybody gets to have one and install on board, as well as those are air heaters, as well as hydronic systems in the classroom. And we've got a really good vendor that we work with, Sure Marine. And so Webasto units is what we're doing primarily, but most of this stuff translates to the different manufacturers out there. Steering and controls. Well, I don't know how many of you have been boating, but if you're on a boat and lose steering, that is not a good day. And so obviously steering and controls is going to be very important. So that would include, control systems for our rudders, as well as bow thrusters, and the control for our throttle and clutches and all that kind of stuff. That's obviously a very important part of operating a vessel. So we spend time doing that as well. We do have an ROV that when the opportunity arises, we like to take that out. We can use this to inspect the underwater components of a vessel, look at through hulls, look at anodes, look at struts and props and shafts and their assemblies and everything without having to put someone in the water. And it's kind of like a video game. So everybody seems to really like it. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, I talked already about the ABYC certification, so I don't need to spend more time on that, but that's a big part of what we do. So it is when you come out with 3 certifications from ABYC, then when you get that completed and you get some experience with 3 ABYC certifications and experience, you can apply for your master certification. And I don't want you to think that that is the end all, because I kind of look at those certifications, being involved with ABYC for so many years, as license to learn, right? You're going to know the basics, you're going to know the standards and stuff like that. And at that point, you can go out and start doing the work. And of course, there's still lots to learn.
And Kevin, just like a difference what I see when I'm talking to students between boat building and marine systems is when you go out into the yard to go to work, whether it's for yourself doing your own business or going to a yard, somebody hiring you, they want to see these.
Yeah.
This is something that
that's
they're
for
gonna
sure.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the marine industry, Christina's so right. There's just not a lot of, it's really the only thing there is out there to prove your skills, and so I do have some students that go, well, I don't really care about certifications. Well, your employers will. And actually, everybody that's gone through and done these after the fact has been, yeah, that was really good. There's a lot of learning, and it puts you way ahead of folks that don't have those certifications. And, they're the industry accepted standards, and they are good standards. I'm a huge supporter of industry accepted standards. Christina.
And it's pretty nice too, because Kevin has worked for ABYC. This is time we actually spend during the program studying for these as well, and we also proctor these, and that's these are actually part of the tuition costs as well. That's how much we've invested in them. So it's a good opportunity to get somebody who knows what's on the test, how to teach the standards, how to get you ready for it, and to get you it before you leave the program.
Yep. So, questions. You guys got to have some questions, right? I mean, I just threw a whole lot at you. Go ahead.
Yes. What certifications are required for someone if they want to be a boat inspector?
You mean like a marine surveyor?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So marine surveyors, you're going to discover if you haven't been in the marine industry, some people call it the wild, wild west, right? Because there is a lot of things like this. You could call yourself a marine surveyor today. You could just hang out your shingle, because there's no regulatory agency that's going to say, hey, you're not a marine surveyor, you're not licensed to be a marine surveyor. But typically, there's two basic surveyor organizations. There is NAMS, which is the National Association of Marine Surveyors, and there's SAMS, Society of Accredited Marine Surveyors. Personally, if I'm going to hire a marine surveyor, they're going to have one of those certifications, right? But nobody say you don't have to have that. So buyer beware in that respect, right? A lot of stuff that we are doing, is going to, if you decided that's something that you want to do, I don't know how to better prepare yourself to be a marine surveyor than going through a program like this, where you're not just reading it from a book, you're actually doing it, and then you can go out there and apply that. Because as a marine surveyor, you're going out and inspecting a boat to ABYC standards and to the best of your ability. Without hands-on experience, I think that would be rather challenging. We have a lot of marine surveyors that have come through our week-long intensives, and I've been teaching marine surveyors for the last 20 years. So, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, more than 20 years when I think about it, but we don't need to go there. Any other questions?
I'll wait my turn.
I got a question.
Oh, great. Go ahead, Eric.
Eric here. Yes. So looking at that battery technology and the electrics right there, what is the technology of those batteries? Is that like the Tesla style, or are you guys doing things that have long range and good power that can last a while?
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to battery technology, it's pretty exciting times, as everybody probably knows. It seems like we've been stagnant for the last 50 years, and recently we've really been moving forward. We all hear about lithium ion batteries and the issues surrounding that. So lithium ion is not something that I'm personally going to put on a boat unless it's being built like somebody like Tesla or, for example, Torqeedo. The batteries that you saw in some of the pictures here are lithium iron phosphate. And so it is a different chemistry, and that chemistry, to the best of our knowledge right now, is a very, very stable chemistry comparatively to lithium ion. They have a lot of advantages, and the capacity, I mean, just very quickly, the things that make them better for us is their acceptance rate, meaning how much charge they can take at one time, which is huge. Basically, we can throw a full, let's say you had a 100 amp alternator, you can throw 100 amps at that battery throughout the entire charge cycle. In other words, net result, without going into a bunch more, you can charge them 10 times faster is what they're saying. Duty cycles on these batteries are somewhere between 4,000 complete duty cycles up to 20,000. Compare that to the best lead acid battery that we have for years on the market, like a T105 golf cart. They have about 700 duty cycles. So if you start looking at this, when I look at lithium iron phosphate batteries, I'm going, okay, these are going to be the last batteries I buy in my lifetime. The other things is that, when it comes to lead acid technology, is basically, if it says it has a 100 amp hour capacity, we can only use 50% of that before we start doing damage to the battery. With the lithium iron phosphate, we were able to use 90+%. And so there's a lot of advantage is to that. We're watching the technology. We're seeing where things go. I'm going to be conservative on that. And so right now, I don't have a lithium ion battery that I'll put on a boat.
Any other questions? I'm going to pause for like another 20 seconds.
Sure, I have a question.
Yes.
Tessa here. Hi. You mentioned after this program, folks pursuing masters. Are you?
No. Okay, let me make that very clear.
Yeah, please clarify.
Yes, ABYC master's certification. That's not like a master's degree. So
okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
No, we're not talking a master's degree here.
Thank you.
Although I've had a number of people that come to this program with master's degrees and stuff, but no. So ABYC, if you get 3 of their certifications and have experience, you can apply to be an ABYC master certified technician. You get a nice little hat. Yep.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I
You get some
mentioned
stickers
ones
too.
that,
Oh, yeah, you get stickers.
Yeah.
You get stickers.
You know, you get the ability to bragging right, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
a master technician.
yeah, thank you.
You bet.
Anyone else? A question for Kevin? I mean, he'll be on for a little bit longer, so if something comes up. If not, I'm going to transition just doing some real quick administrative information regarding applications.
Got
All
one
right.
last question, Eric here.
Go ahead, Eric.
So the since it looks like everything looks like it's provided, but is there things that we got to come with as far as tools and things of that nature?
Absolutely. And if you jump online, go to our webpage, and there is a required tool and book list in there. And so we try to keep, you know, I try really hard to keep that cost down for you. We provide all the equipment that you're going to be working on, but you will be needing to come with your own tools. And so that list is available. It's going to include a variety of things from the mechanical side as well as the electrical side. And we try to keep that very manageable, because a lot of people that come to our program, you know, this is not, you know, money isn't what life is about to them. And, you know, so sometimes kind of scarce and hard to come by. And so with that in mind, there's certain basic things you got to have, right? You got to have a digital voltmeter. I'm sorry. You're going to be a technician, you got to have it. And you want one. I mean, you might carry one with you like I do everywhere I go, right? And so anyway, yes, that list is available. And if you have any problems finding it, just let us know.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, I have just to talk about tools as well. That list is online. It's under required tools under admissions. And if there are any tools that you already own, by all means, you are very welcome to bring what you already have that's a comparable tool. We don't want people to buy double. And a difference between our boat building program and marine systems, as the marine systems program tools are a little bit more accessible and available for you to just find the best price at the best quality that you want to buy. So we're very open to that.
Yep.
There was a question in the chat, Kevin.
Yes.
This is David.
Okay.
David, I might ask you to come up and clarify what you're asking, but it says, he said, I'm interested in what came up from Suzuki when you mentioned working anywhere in the world. Since I'm not from Washington, I don't know what it's like. Is it a leap moving to a new career and lifestyle? And David, I'd ask you to clarify, is that working with Suzuki or is that moving to Washington?
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering. It sounds, I mean, I'm from California, and a lot of the programs in California are strictly for people from California. Like the city colleges oftentimes are strictly, you know, they say that they're for everyone and that they'll do this, but like if you move to Davis or something, those city colleges are specific to farming. So you can't move anywhere else once you finish. So I know that Boston has ports and stuff, and I'm living on the East Coast. And that's what I'm more thinking. That's my thinking. My thinking is, well, how well known is this school? Can you go from there to New York to Boston to Italy?
You want me to take that on, Christina?
Yeah, you can talk about the
Sure.
more. I mean, I can talk about how half of our whole classes, all of our programs, half people come from within Washington State, and half come from outside of the U.S. or sorry, outside of the state. And then there's a few international students we have each year, usually 1 to 3 students. So your classmates are people who are coming from different places. So no, it's not specific to just Washington State. That's kind of the beauty of being a private school when you're not getting money from the state, is that there's not as many regulations around that. And maritime is worldwide.
Yeah.
Maritime is everywhere. And that's where I'm going to let Kevin talk more about it.
Yeah, let me just add into that, Christina, is that, you know, the skills that you're going to learn while you're here, of course, again, I'm going to reiterate, you got to put a lot of effort into this, but the skills that you obtain here, I want you to think about how transferable these are. So if you learn marine electrical and all these programs here, what are other things you could do with that? First of all, there are ports around the world, and you know, so there's a lot of opportunity right now. Everybody is screaming for marine technicians, and you know, we don't guarantee, you know, anything like that. We do help out with job placement and stuff. I would say my experience here has been, if you want to work, you're going to find work. Now, the skills that you obtain here working on both AC and DC is something you can apply to a lot of other places. I just think about marine electrical because that's obviously one of my favorites. But, let's think about RVs. RVs are using a lot of the same technology, a lot of the same products, ambulances, fire trucks, tiny homes, all of these places. I didn't even mention solar, but solar is a big part of what we do. Solar is everywhere, and it's going to continue. And so I would look at it not so much how famous is the school. I would look at it, how important are the skills that you're going to learn here, and where can you take those? And I think you can take them all over the place. And our goal is to teach you to be a problem solver and be able to take technology to solve these problems. With that stuff, with the right attitude, you can go a long ways, I think. It's been proven.
All right, I'm going to move on really quickly and just go over really quickly some of the admissions tasks. If you're interested a little bit more about the school, I will take as little time as possible. If you need to jump off, it's totally fine. We'll send the recording. But I think Kevin will probably stay on for a few more minutes after I talk if you have any other questions. So just kind of like what Dave was saying, he's in California, we're in Washington State, not really familiar with the state. I originally came from Florida 10 years ago, almost as far as I could, and came to this state. Had a partner that went through this school. So we are located in Port Hadlock. You can see our logo there on the map. You can see Seattle just down south of that. We're about an hour and a half from Seattle. It's only about 30 miles as the crow flies, as I understand. It's not that far by water, but you tend to have to take ferries and go around. But the great thing about the Olympic, being up here on the Olympic Peninsula, is that you're a jump off point for some amazing places like the Olympic National Park. You can hit Victoria, drive up to Vancouver, and you're not far from both Seattle and Portland. You're within 3.5 hours from Portland, so two pretty major metropolitan areas. And it's very common to you can totally jet over to Seattle for a day and back in the same day. That's a very normal thing to happen. I mentioned the Olympic Peninsula as just being a great jump off sport, and these are some of the beauty shots of what you can expect, what this area kind of looks like. That top left photo is Mount Storm King, which is in the Olympic Peninsula. So it's probably about 45-minute-hour drive, not including obviously the hike up there. It's an amazing park. It's a huge park as well. You also see the Hoh Rainforest up there on the top right. Below, you'll see the city of Port Townsend. That's kind of downtown Port Townsend. That's what it looks like. That's 10 minutes to the north of us. A big boat place. That's where the boat yard is, where you see some of our big boat yards. And we have a really big festival, wooden boat festival here every year. About 20,000 people come to town and just do everything wooden boats. And we have a lot of sailing that happens too. We just actually had the Shipwrights Regatta. That's a sailing race that happens in February. It was actually nice weather this year. There was no snowing or flurrying, so much so that my 3-year-old went out with my husband on this. But it's kind of a fun time that they acknowledge that the people who are working in the yards aren't necessarily always sailing or doing the regattas in the summer if they're doing work. So they make sure that they do kind of regattas all year long. And not even talking about, we have great cideries and agriculture and farming, and it's kind of a great mix. It feels, when you come down the road, it feels like you're driving to the middle of nowhere, and then there's an amazing kind of collection of people down here. I moved here 10 years ago. I never moved back. We also have a pretty great campus. We are a 8-acre waterfront campus now. This map actually needs to be updated. Where you see the rub shelter has been moved, and that's actually where the Marine Systems building is now. So it's 8 acres. 2 of our campuses in the office I'm actually sitting in is on the waterfront. That's great because we have access to the waterfront. So like when Kevin's program wants to launch the Paulsbo, so that you can see the difference between a diesel engine, how that sounds and feels in electric propulsion, we just go down to the boat ramp and do it. We also just had some boat launches for the boat building program, and we usually all coordinate and make that an on the water day, bring all the boats down we have. Students can get on the water, sail around, enjoy the sun when it comes. So we have a lot more of these in the summer. Oh, here's some pictures. That's the beach right outside the school. There's a dock out there as well. It's not a dock that we own, thankfully, but the Port Townsend. But it gives us a lot of availability to, one, launch boats that we build and also have boats come and visit us. So there might be a boat that wants to come down and you want to crawl around it and do a corrosion survey because they've chatted with Kevin. There is the opportunity to do that. Getting into the fun conversations about applications. So our school year starting for 24-25 starts October 1st. It's a weird day. It's on a Tuesday. We can't start before the 1st of October. So that's why we start on a Tuesday. But that program is going to start relatively soon. There's still lots of time to apply, but the application process is open. There's not a ton of eligibility requirements. You don't need necessarily a lot of experience with marine systems. It's something that we teach you when you get here. The basics is you have to have either high school diploma, GED, certificate before the first day of school. That's something our accreditor requires us to have. You have to be able to do the day-to-day work. There's a lot of standing on your feet, moving around, and ability to write and understand English. If you meet all those eligibilities and you're ready to apply, our application is available online. There's a big button in the right corner of our website that lives there all the time. You hit that, it will take you through the application process. There's some questions on there, of course. What's your name? Where do you live? There's 3 personal statement questions on there asking you, why are you interested in this program? What do you think you want to do? And it's just a way to tell us a little bit of your story and that you've thought a little bit about what it means for the time and commitment to it. And then also it helps us gauge a little bit of what your expectations are as well. Along with the application, there's a $200 tuition deposit. That's just a way for goodwill to say, yeah, I'm very interested in this. It is refundable. So if life happens, you get that back. But there is a $100 registration fee that is non-refundable. And then you would provide your high school diploma, which we just talked about. I don't know if anyone's international here. I don't think you are, but both of our programs can take international students. They're approved to. There is a lot more steps to do that, but it is something that we can offer. And I'm happy to go into those more if anybody actually falls into international student. Of course, great. Yeah, this sounds all great, but how much does it cost? That's a big barrier. 1 is deciding, is it right for you? 2, how much does it cost? And 3, where do I live? Those are the biggest barriers that we see with students. So here you'll see what the tuition is. That tuition includes also, again, your ABYC testing. So all that testing fees, you get the use of a laptop as well. Tools, books, and supplies. That's about what it costs. Might be a little more, a little less, depending on tax and what year and what inflation feels like that year. You know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, that felt very different. But those tools that you bring in are what's going to be expected at the bare minimum for you to have to go out and actually work in this trade. Because when you work in trades like this, they expect you to bring those tools. And then I also like to remind people, especially around tools, is that this is just the beginning of your tool collection. This will never end. You will collect tools for the rest of your life. And I've stopped adding up any tools that my husband has actually bought. There are ways to help fund your education too, and I'm so happy to talk with people about this offline. We are approved for federal financial aid. So that's kind of a place that we start, whether that's a direct loan or to see if you're eligible for something called a Pell Grant. We also are approved to offer the GI Bill or to take something called the VRNE program for those who qualify. So those are also ways we can do funding. And then we also have a scholarship fund that we always really recommend people apply for. We're pretty excited this year. We have a real decent amount of funds happening. We actually just had a scholarship fundraising event last night. So I think that this total might go up a little bit, which is very nice for it because we know the barriers are there. We know it's an investment and we want to help people because we really want to see people go into this trade. So we have a scholarship page. The website is right there on the bottom. You can watch the recording or find it on the website. But I highly recommend either chatting with us if tuition's a barrier. We're happy to be the first stop sounding board of how we can be helpful and what that looks like, and then also to talk more about these scholarships. So we have a pretty diverse class that comes from, again, half the class comes from within Washington State and half outside. I put the photo of our current class in, but these are the numbers from our last class. It's fun to see the current class smiling at you. So here's some of the demographics of what sorry, that marine system students is wrong. That wasn't 11. It was more than that. I just updated this slide. But we have people of all ages coming here, anywhere from 18 to 64. Sometimes that's 18 to 68. But the core demographic you usually see for our whole programs is you took everybody's age and took the mean. It's usually like 30 to 35. But it's really nice to have an intergenerational mix of students because you have a lot of people just coming into the world and learning what that means, and then people who have had these great experiences in life and they're all working together. And you actually see them pair up. I'm thinking of Sage and where there's like probably a 35-year difference, and they're benchmates and they pair up and they eat lunch, and it just works. We are a veteran supported campus. This is a designation that we get from the Department of Veterans Affairs. And that means we provide additional support. One of the additional supports that we can offer is a Vet Corps member who is funded. So this is a current student that is on campus that can help veterans, whether that's through like, hey, what was your funding like? Or how did you do this? Or I had a current incoming, I think Trevor is here, asking, hey, what's the BHA for this area, which is a basic housing allowance? And I was able to connect with Scott, who is going through it right now. So it's really helpful to have him here to talk to veterans. We also have a fantastic volunteer named Rita, who was a voc rehab counselor for 25 years, and she just knows the ins and outs. So we are so happy to connect people with those resources and make the process as easy and simple and bearable as we can. Housing is another big barrier. We know that after tuition, figure out tuition, where am I going to live? The school has culminated a list, like a housing list of local property owners. Some of those people have been on for a very long time, and we get new people on every year. So that's the first thing we do is a student becomes an enrolled student, we share the housing list. We say, hey, take a look at this, see what this looks like. If it fits you, start reaching out to some local community members. And then as we get closer to the program starting, we'll start sending out individual housing emails to the incoming class to say, hey, we just saw this posted. Somebody just called me about this right away. Here's an email. Here's the details. You should call them. And then as we get even closer, I have personally done this. Hey, this just came through my desk. It fits you. If it's your budget, what you want, you should call them within the next day and get this figured out. So we really try to support and be really quick on getting you supported with housing opportunities, because we know if you can't live anywhere, you can't come. And then lastly, the most exciting slide of this whole thing, I'm sure, is accreditation. There's a lot of logos there. This is just to show you that we have to tell a lot of people what we do, whether that's from curriculum, staffing, how we do recruitment, how we do our financials. These are all the agencies that we have to report to. And it really boils down to consumer protection, is we're doing all the things that we say that we're going to do, and they're all within line and standards for these different agencies. And a really fun one is we were just granted national recognition from MARAD, which is the Maritime Workforce Training and Education Department's Center of Excellence for Domestic Maritime Training. And it's basically an acknowledgement of them saying is what you're doing is important, and what how you're doing it well. So it's always nice to have a little hint from the federal government to say that, because the federal government doesn't say that very often. Following up, these are some staff members' emails. I'll leave this up for just a few seconds. Again, you'll be able to check the recording or go on the website to find any of these emails. You can talk to me. I have a coworker named Heidi that you might also chat with. Katie Whalen is our financial aid officer. That's somebody if you needed to talk more regarding federal funding or filling out a FAFSA form. And again, all of these are on our website. All right, I tried to make that as painless as possible. Does anyone have any questions regarding that section I just went over? Great, no worries. Get a hold of me if you do. There is another question from David, Kevin, that I'm happy to read.
Okay.
He says, do you do any rigging? I'm an amateur rigger and I'd love to get a cert.
Yeah, good question. We don't really do anything. I mean, we talk about some of the things, but I wouldn't say that we teach rigging here. There are a number of really great companies in Port Townsend because this is a big sailing community. I don't know what the percentage powerboat versus sailboats, but we have a lot of sailboats. So there is a lot of opportunity in the area. But as far as our classroom itself, you're just going to get very basic stuff. We don't get into the details.
Yeah, I would say more if rigging where people, it's kind of a mix, right? It depends what happens. I know that in the boat building program, there's the rigging of like blocks and tackle and having to set up rigging for the actual sailing function of a boat or for any type of like pulley system on a boat. But sometimes there has happened where I've seen some rigging, at least pulling some electrical for some mast wiring or hardware. And I think that's just dependent on what's going on. I'm not saying that happens all the time, but those are, I know Kevin has mentioned, like sometimes we get this great project and you get to do that, but it's not a core component of our program.
Yeah, and I would say like rigging is kind of one of those very specialized things, kind of like the other thing is hydraulics. We do go into hydraulics a little bit, mainly to keep you safe around hydraulics, and we do have a hose maker and stuff here, but we're not going to teach you to be, design hydraulic systems. It's very technical. And if you go into most yards or areas, they may have a rigger, but a lot of times there's one business in town. Like Brian Toss was the rigger here in town for I don't know how many years, Christina. And so a lot of years, and very famous rigger and stuff. And anybody that wanted rigging done would typically, the yards would do a little bit of stuff, but most everybody would go to someone like Brian. So there are opportunities within the maritime industry to really specialize in these particular areas and do quite well.
Yeah, we actually have a sail loft right above us. I've actually asked them to stop grommeting for this hour, but they also do some rigging too. So being in such a small area, there are more sail makers and riggers than you would expect any other city. So we usually recommend people connecting with them to see how they can at least get some basics on there. I also do like to remind people too, the maritime industry is vast. Is a vast network of different specialized things. So you might come in, I've seen people come in one direction, like I'm gonna be a boat builder, and then in 10 years, they're in something completely different, but it's still maritime related. So I think that's kind of where you see is we're kind of, there's a gateway to like, I think I wanna start here. You come in through the gateway or a program, you go into work, and then you realize that there might be a place that you like to specialize. And then you can really focus on that. But to have a program that teaches all of that, I always tell people, I'm like, it would be a 10-year program and cost you $100,000, if not more, and it's just not worth the time. So really get it. What I recommend is get in somewhere that you think you want to do, and then figure out where you want to go and connect yourself with people who are doing that. All right, we're coming up to the end of our presentation. Last second, any more questions for Kevin or me?
I got one.
Go ahead, Tess.
Tessa. Can you tell or talk anything about apprenticeship that might happen while this program goes for the 9 months? Does any type of apprenticeship happen in that time frame? Like,
Chris, you want me to take that?
Oh, go for it, and I'll follow up with anything.
Yeah. So apprenticeship programs, when you use that word apprenticeship, it kind of does a lot of different things. I look at a lot of what we do. We don't have a set apprenticeship program at this time. It's something we've certainly looked at. I like to look at as a lot of our students while they're here end up working with different projects. Like, I don't know if you guys are all familiar with, you probably are, the Tally Ho. Are you familiar with the Tally Ho project? So Tally-Ho is a boat that's being rebuilt here in Port Townsend. It's real famous on YouTube. And a lot of our students leave here, and several of them have ended up working on Tally-Ho, and you might call that an apprenticeship. But at this moment, we've looked into it a number of times. I'd like to see something like that happen, but the minute you say apprenticeship, it kind of triggers a lot of union kind of stuff, and so I would say I'd look at apprenticeship as going into a yard, start working, learn what you can, and utilize that as your apprenticeship.
That's a similar thing I would say is it's not like there's not a part of the program. The core program is for a month, you go out to do an apprenticeship. Our thing is to get you in, get you out, get you trained, and get you making money as well. We know like that is the trajectory is for you to go out and work. And a lot of that is going to be learned on the job too. This is like it's entry level, but it's hoping to bump you up enough so that you're not sweeping the floors and scrubbing the boat, scrubbing the hull off. Like you're going to be able to actually touch real tools, do real projects.
Did we answer your question, Tessa?
Yes, sort of. I'm thinking about marine surveying.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thoughts are, well, how does this work after you finish a hands-on training program if you want to become a surveyor?
Oh, sure. Well, I noticed that anyway, there's a number of things that we do that could look towards that. I think a marine surveyor is someone that requires a lot of years of experience. And I think you obtain that experience by really, hooking up with an existing marine surveyor and working with that person for a period of time. We usually have a couple different marine surveyors come in and talk to you as students about that as a possible profession and stuff. And so that's something that you have the opportunity. In fact, the guy that, John comes in he's the president of NAMS, for example. And of course, I see that I'm looking at a note here from Jason's is putting in some notes about places to look up about marine surveyors. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. I try to bring in at least 2 different marine surveyors. I try to get Allison Mazan to come up. She is a SAMS surveyor. When I say SAMS, that's the Society of Accredited Marine Surveyors, and NAMS, again, as I mentioned, is National Association of Marine Surveyors. And they're both 2 excellent organizations that are slightly different, but either of them, are going to be. I'm going to trust those names when I hire a marine surveyor. And so, of course, Allison Mazan, I would hire and flag her anywhere. If I'm buying another boat, I want her to do my survey.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk about like marine surveying is it's not like you go to a program like you go to be a marine surveyor. You go to a program, you work in the trade, you learn some of the things that have happened, how to fix them, what's wrong, what goes bad, and then bring that experience into marine surveying by hooking up with another marine surveyor, seeing how they do it, and then going off on your own. We have had alumni do that, and that's like a multi-year process. It's not something that I would ever recommend somebody just coming into this program going out and doing.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, Kevin's information is also on the website as well. So if you have any follow-up questions with him, feel free to reach out. He loves to chat about anything marine systems because he's a big geek, as he mentioned already. And my email is there too. So I want to thank everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you for asking questions. It's so nice to have engagement from people. And that other people are looking to ask the same questions as well. So we'll package this up and get this recording out in the next few days, hopefully sooner rather than later, so that you can either review it and we can share it with everybody that wasn't here. But thank you again for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.